Hi, I'm a Bullis Student Tutor, and then for this video, I'll be talking about the bass clef and accidentals. Um, so let's begin. So as in my previous video, we talked about notes on the treble clef, which is in music. There are several different clefs to represent where you are in terms of sound and pitch. So the treble clef is higher notes such as these higher notes. But the bass clef, which we'll be talking about in this video, is lower notes, such as these. The notes on the bass clef have different acronyms and letter representations, so we'll be going over those. So first we have the spaces, which are A, C, E, and G, which would read out A, C, E, G. All cows eat grass. That's just a good way to remember the notes on the spaces in the bass clef. And now for the lines, we have good boats do float always. So GDBFA. So good boats do float always. And now moving on to probably the most important part of this video, which is accidentals. And accidentals are extremely important because, as you can see, we have notes in between the spaces of the clef and also on the lines. But for the majority of notes here, those are not just the only notes, because there's a half step between the spaces and the lines. And in between, there's a whole step. And in between that whole step, there's a half step, which is an entirely different note, which is used in music. And so a good way to remember, just picture this in your head, is through a piano, which has all the half steps and whole steps. So if we start at C, and then we have the note D, which would move up from the space to the line. There's another note, entirely another note in between those two, which would sound like this. This is really important because there's a ton of different notes. There's a ton of notes that you'll be using, especially accidentals, all throughout music. And this pattern it is generally continued, but there are two important exceptions. So as you can see, there's a black note, which will represent a half step in between the C and D, and also between other letter names, which extends. So there's another one in between D and E, but here we get to E and F. And where's the half note in between there? And the answer is there's a whole step between C and D, and there's a whole step between D and E, but there's just a half step in between E and F. And this pattern continues on for G and B and C. So we have whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And that's the general pattern for major scales, which is a topic for another day. So to represent these on the staff, we would call them flat or sharp. And so a flat note would be represented by this symbol, which looks a lot like a B. And a sharp is like a slanted number symbol. So a flat would be one half step down. So if we go back, we would have a C. Its note could be called C sharp or D flat, because it is a half step above C and a half step below D. It could be called either, but you would call it either C sharp or C flat, or D flat, excuse me, based on the key, which is a topic for another day. So the question is, what do we do for E? Like, what is E sharp? Because there's no note in between here. And the answer is E sharp, we would just play it as F. And there are times where you will encounter E sharp in certain keys, but for the most of the time, you won't have to worry about it. The same goes for F flat, also for C flat, because there's the same problem in between B and C. I hope this was helpful. This has been a Bullis Student Tutors video. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to check out the rest of our YouTube channel for more tutoring and music theory related videos. Thank you.